Hi again, Mark here from Talking Bass. Today we're going to look at the good old Fender Precision Bass, the P-Bass. We're going to look at the pros and the cons because, let's face it, it's probably the most popular bass guitar out there. It's the granddaddy of all basses, and if you ask most non-bass players to think of a bass guitar, the Precision is usually what they're going to visualize in their heads. So if you're looking to buy a new bass as a beginner or to add to your collection and you don't own a Precision yet, this video should help with making that decision as to whether to purchase one or not. So let's begin with a look at the pros, and first up we have simplicity. The Fender Precision is about as simple and straightforward a bass as you're going to get. The traditional Precision design has 4 strings, 20 frets, a single split coil pickup perfectly placed between the bridge and the neck, passive tone control, so no fancy active circuits or battery changes required, and you get these lovely great big clover style tuning keys. It's all very straightforward and it just works. You plug in, turn both knobs to maximum, and you're good to go. Now, as an absolute beginner, this is great news because there's nothing worse than getting a new bass, for Christmas or something like that, only to find it takes you 10 minutes and a Google search just to find out what those 5 knobs on your expensive active circuit actually do. Which one's the volume? What's this blend knob? What's this active passive pull? Concentric parametric mid controls, what are they? You can't play a note yet and you've got to deal with all this stuff. Not what you really want when you're starting out. The Fender Precision is the best bass when it comes to plug in and play. The second big pro is a bit obvious, but it's probably the main reason that so many people buy Precisions from beginners to seasoned pros. Simply, it's a P-Bass. It does the Fender Precision sound, end of. Precisions have that warm, open tone that we all know and love, even if we don't realize it. So here are just a few names for you. James Jamerson, Carol Kaye, Roger Waters, Duck Dunn, Steve Harris, Pino Palladino, Geezer Butler, Billy Sheehan, Rocco Prestia, Nate Mendel, D.D. Ramone. The Fender Precision does what it does, and in a sense, it's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but that one trick basically shaped the sound of rock, soul, and pop music. So, just as an example, here's that basic default P-Bass sound. We've got round wounds here, fingerstyle, with a very, very simple bass line. Now with a bit more snap, we can get more of that rock bite in there. If we try a little slap technique, you'll recognize that Freddie Washington style sound. So that sound is very different from the Larry Graham, Marcus Miller jazz bass tone. I like to think of it as more of a hollow, open sound. With a pick, you're going to recognize more of that punk tone. Lastly, here we have a P-Bass fitted with flat wound strings and a mute for more of that traditional James Jamerson Motown kind of tone. So, the Fender Precision has a very specific, round, open sound that really suits rock bass playing, but obviously works well for other styles too. The only way to describe it really is basically P-Bass, and you can always rely on it for either studio or live work. It's got that big, fat sound with a lovely low end, and you're not going to worry about the sound that you bring to the table, whatever the style. It does one tone perfectly, and that tone fits in pretty much every musical setting. For pro number 3, we have build quality. The Fender Precision is a well-built tank of a bass. Every Precision that I've ever tried or owned, whether light or heavy, has felt solid and reliable. It's a real, workhorse of an instrument. I don't feel like I'm playing some delicate boutique piece of art that would be better, placed on the wall in a frame. I'm not scared to get down and dirty with it. The Precision wants to be played and always feels like it can handle all of the knocks and rigours of being on the road. It's got that fat, solid neck that, ain't going anywhere, those big solid tuners, and like I say, it's just a real workhorse of a bass. Then lastly, for pro number 4, we've got the looks. Now, a P bass obviously has a very traditional look. It doesn't have the modern curves of an Ibanez or the space age design of a Dingwall. It's pretty much as traditional a bass guitar as you can imagine, but that is actually one of its biggest strengths. That traditional stereotypical bass look fits in pretty much any musical setting. It doesn't look out of place in a pop band, a punk band, a soul band, an orchestra, a death metal band, a country band, or a folk band. It doesn't stand out. It just blends nicely into any musical setting. So now onto the cons. First up, we've got the frets. Fender Precisions traditionally only come with 20 frets. Now for most bass players, this probably won't be a problem. 99.9% of bass lines are barely going to venture much past that 12th fret on the G string. Never mind getting up, at the E, F and G there. But some players do want more frets. You might have seen some of the classical performances that I've released here on the channel where I venture up to that 24th fret. If you're a soloist going for maximum versatility, then a P bass might not be for you. But like I say, for most players, 20 frets will be more than enough. Con number 2 is the neck. Precisions have pretty chunky necks and they're generally wider than those of, let's say, a Fender Jazz. P-bass necks tend to be around 1.7 inches across at the nut from side to side. A Jazz bass is around 1.5 inch. Those measurements are going to vary quite a lot depending on the model and year, but as a rule of thumb, the Precision has a wider neck. Now, this can be great for some players. There's a little more space between the strings and it feels just plain big, which, that might be your preference. But for players with small hands or those of you looking to play lightning fast runs across the strings, again, the Precision might not be your best bet. For con number 3, we've got the pickups. We've only got one pickup. Now, yes, I know that if you go for the deluxe models, they have an extra bridge pickup, but the standard traditional P bass only has that single split coil neck pickup. Now, as I've already explained, that simplicity is one of the great pros of the bass, but if you're looking for a more diverse range of tones, then a Precision might not work for you. Now, there are obviously many ways to get a range of different tones out of that one pickup by way of technique, but they are all going to be variations on a theme. With a Fender Jazz, for example, you can use the neck pickup soloed, the bridge pickup soloed, or blend them together however you want. With a Precision, you can't. What you've got is great, but that's all you've got. And finally, for con number 4, just as with the pros, we have the looks. Now, I described the traditional styling of the Precision as a great strength in the pros list, but if you're going for something a little or a lot different, then you might be better suited looking elsewhere. The Fender Precision fits visually into any musical setting, which contributes to it being such a great workhorse instrument. But what if you're wanting something that looks totally unique or that you want as your own special trademark? You're not going to get that with a Precision. It is what it is, and you really shouldn't try to make it something that it's not, or expect something that it's not. If you don't like traditional bass looks, then get a Dingwall or one of the more boutique modern basses out there. There are plenty of great brands out there, but if you're looking at a Precision, you've got to accept it for what it is. So overall, to summarize, in terms of the pros for the Fender Precision, we have the overall simplicity of the design and electrics, we've got that great P-bass sound, we have the build quality, and we have the traditional looks. Then for the cons, we have the fact that it only has 20 frets, the neck is pretty wide, there's only one pickup, and a lack of diversity in the tone, and finally it looks very traditional. Let me know what you think of the Fender Precision in the comments below and tell me if I've missed some other important pros and cons. Remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and then get on over to the Talkingbass website where you can sign up for the free membership. Inside you'll find a ton of free practice resources and downloads like the Scale Reference Manual ebook, and you'll also be able to mix with over 120,000 other bass players in the forums and groups where we have a super friendly, thriving community. So click the link in the info below and I'll see you next week.